Well, I was going to get the kids to come up here, but I need a lot of participation today. So I'm going to stand right here. And FYI, if you are over the age of 10, you are a deputized kid. So I'm going to need you to help me. There are some responses. This one takes us all. So my question first is, who here knows from experience that life isn't fair? Oh, yeah, okay. It's just not fair, and I don't think it ever has been. And I hate it when grown-ups say, well, life just isn't fair, but it's true. But what can we do? Mostly we just go, we can't do it, it's not fair, just got to go on. But once upon a time, there was a man who just refused to shrug it off. He couldn't let it go. And life wasn't fair, but that wasn't okay with him. And he just decided he wasn't going to put up with it. He was a great and wise teacher. He was a prophet. And that doesn't mean he told the future. Prophet means someone who speaks truth to power, whether that truth is 2,000 years ago or today. And so he was a prophet. Millions of people around the world over time have been inspired by his teachings, and you probably know by now that I'm talking about Jesus. So Jesus stood up and spoke out, and he fought for fairness and justice. In fact, he said something about this which was so strange that I've had to think about it a lot. And what he said was, "The last shall be first, and the first shall be last." That's pretty strange. We're not really sure exactly what he meant by this, and my guess is, and I'm sure, that there are lots of meanings that could have. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. But one way that we might understand it is if we think about what it feels like to be first and what it feels like to be last. So here's where I need help, kids. My friends, help me understand what it feels like to be first. Maybe you've had this experience yourself, and maybe you're just imagining it, but like you're first. You came in first. Imagine it. You're first in line to go to the lunchroom. You were the first person who crossed the finish line in the big race. You were the first person who learned to do this and conquered that. How's that feel? Tell me how it feels. Tell me how it feels. Good? Okay, give me a little more specific. Lonely. Oh, lonely. Ooh, maybe, yes. But what if you're just in the company of winners? Yeah, I know.
What if it's alphabetical?
What if it's alphabetical? Then your name is Bailey and you win. My name is Cervantes, but it used to be Nobis, so, you know. So, it feels real good to be first. Yeah, it's like satisfying. Now, let's think about what it feels like to be last. How does it feel to be the worst at something? How does it feel to be on the bottom? Y'all, I used to run long distances very, very slowly. And I did a lot of half marathons really slowly, and then I did a marathon really, really slowly. There were 2,000 people signed up for the marathon, and I was 63rd from the end. But I didn't crawl, but I almost crawled across that finish line, but I did it. And it still felt good, but it was kind of crummy not to be first. So how does it feel to be the worst and the last? Can you tell me? Can you share? Deflating. Lonely. You can get used to it. It can feel like you're being shamed. It can feel like you are ashamed. It's rough to feel last. And that's not even talking about people who might be last when it comes to things like having food to eat and having safe shelter and having people who love you. So thank you guys for sharing those feelings. They're important. And I think it's important that we share, what does it feel like to be the first? And what does it feel like to be the last? And that way, I think if The people who really know what it feels like to be first, just the people who have life by the nape, and they're doing great and they're just going strong. It's important for them to understand what it would feel like to be last. And you don't like to think about it because the last one is the one that's like, my heart. But it's still important to know about it. And I think that the world might become a little more fair and balanced if the people who already know too well what it feels like to come last, if they got to come first, if they were at the head of the line, if they were the first to be served, what would that feel like? I think they need to know. I think those of us who've been at the last need to know, right? And so if those people can come to know for a change what it feels like to come out on top, that is a good thing. And I can imagine that if these people who are usually last and these people who are usually first could share the feelings, the emotions, and their experiences with one another, then each of them might begin to experience a change and a transformation. I think that when we share our feelings with one another, we change one another. And when we listen with trust and compassion, we begin to change on the inside ourselves. So when these different experiences, first, last, winner, loser, top, bottom, when they come together, when they are centered and brought into one place, and they touch, that's when things change. And when we start to be changed on the inside, we start to act differently in the world. And when we act differently in the world begins to change and moves more and more toward justice as we move more and more toward justice. Jesus believed that a just society was possible on earth. And in fact, he taught that it was so powerful it would create heaven right here. Can you believe that? Heaven on earth? What a thing to work for. Amen.